I watched my mother adjust my brother's velvet collar, her eyes shining with the kind of pure, unconditional love she had never once directed at me. We were standing in a ballroom filled with millionaires, but all I could think about was the eviction notice currently folded in my purse. Not for me, for them. I shifted my grip on the heavy crystal award in my hands. Architect of the Year. It took me 10 years of 80-hour weeks, panic attacks, and sleeping under my drafting table to earn it. To my parents, Sarah and Arthur, it was nothing more than a shiny ATM receipt. "Zoe, fix your face," my mother hissed, not even looking at me. She smoothed down a silk designer dress that I had paid for. "People are staring. You look miserable." "I'm just trying to breathe, Mom," I muttered over the hum of the string quartet. "Well, breathe later," Arthur chimed in, adjusting his cuffs. He was scanning the room, hunting for wealth like a hawk. "Tonight is about networking. Alex is talking to that big venture capitalist right now. When he brings him over, you need to introduce them properly." Alex, my younger brother, 28, chronically unemployed, and convinced he was the next tech visionary. He had spent his 20s burning through my parents' retirement fund on failed startups and spiritual retreats in Bali. When their money ran dry, they turned to mine. "Mom, Dad, stop," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Tonight is my firm's night. I am not pitching Alex's new... What is it this time? A dating app for dogs?" "It's an AI-driven pet socialization matrix, Zoe," Sarah snapped, her voice dripping with the condescension usually reserved for a slow child. "And it's brilliant. He just needs $50,000 for the beta launch. We already told him you'd cover it as a celebratory gift. It's the least you can do, considering we let you use our connections to get where you are." Connections. I almost laughed out loud. They lived in a sprawling 6-bedroom estate in the suburbs. They threw lavish dinner parties, bragging to their friends about their smart real estate investments. What nobody in this ballroom knew was that the generous private foundation that granted them that house was a shell corporation I owned. I bought it. I paid the taxes. I let them live there rent-free because 3 years ago, I still naively believed I could buy their affection. Instead, I just subsidized their arrogance. They honestly believed they owned the roof over their heads. "There he is!" Sarah gasped, clapping her hands. Striding across the ballroom floor was Alex, flashing his 1,000-watt smile. Walking beside him was Mark. Mark was the most ruthless, brilliant real estate developer in the city. He was also my primary investor, the man who funded my largest projects. In Alex's hands was an iPad. As they approached, my brother swiped across the screen, showing Mark a series of 3D architectural renderings. My breath stopped. I recognized the sharp angles. I recognized the unique cantilevered terraces. They were my designs, the unreleased blueprints I had kept on a backup drive at my parents' house. Alex wasn't pitching an app. He was pitching my stolen life's work, passing it off as his own genius to the very man who wrote my paychecks. "Watch and learn, Zoe," my mother whispered, actual tears of joy in her eyes. "Your brother is finally stepping out of your shadow." I gripped my award, feeling the sharp crystal press into my palms. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt absolute, icy clarity. "No, Mom," I said softly, my voice dead calm. "He's stepping right into the spotlight. Let's see how he handles the heat." Mark didn't get to the top of the real estate food chain by being blind. As he and Alex stopped in front of us, his sharp eyes darted from my white-knuckled grip on the crystal award to the strained, expectant smiles of my parents. "Zoe," Mark said, his voice cutting through the ambient noise of the gala. He offered a warm, genuine smile, a rarity in our industry. "Congratulations. The Skyline project was a masterpiece. Backing your firm was the smartest play I've made in years." "Thank you, Mark," I replied, keeping my voice perfectly level. "I couldn't have built it without your trust." Alex shifted on his feet. practically vibrating with impatient energy. He despised not being the center of attention. Yeah, great job, sis. But Mark and I were just discussing the future. Disruption, you know? The next paradigm shift in urban living. Arthur clapped his hand proudly on Alex's shoulder. Alex has an incredible eye for space, a true visionary. Mark tilted his head. His gaze flickered down to the iPad in Alex's hand, then slowly back to me. There was a dangerous, analytical glint in his eye. Mark was a shark in a tailored suit, and he had just smelled blood in the water. Yes, Mark murmured slowly. Alex was just showing me some fascinating concepts. Very avant-garde, surprisingly sophisticated for someone without formal architectural training. It's about intuition, Mark, Alex said smoothly, flashing his practiced smile. I see the flow of human energy. Take this one, for example. He tapped the screen, bringing up the 3D rendering of a sustainable, multi-tiered eco-complex, my eco-complex, the one I had spent 6 months designing in secret. Ah, yes, Mark said, stepping closer to inspect the screen. I noticed the load-bearing distribution on those cantilevered gardens. It's a bold choice. Tell me, Alex, how are you handling the wind shear at that altitude? The tensile stress on an asymmetric structure must require some radical engineering. Silence fell over our little group. The string quartet suddenly sounded deafeningly loud. Alex's smile froze. He blinked. The hollow tech buzzwords he memorized from podcasts didn't cover wind shear. Well, he stammered, running a nervous hand through his hair. We're outsourcing the granular math to an AI firm. We believe in delegating the micro details so we can focus on the macro vision. Sarah stepped in instantly, her maternal instincts sensing danger. Alex is an ideas man, Mark, like Steve Jobs. He delegates the boring parts to the technicians. Mark didn't blink. He slowly raised his eyes from the iPad and looked directly into mine. He had seen my early sketches for this exact project 3 months ago on the whiteboards in my private office. He knew exactly what he was looking at and exactly whose brain had created it. A silent, terrifying conversation passed between us in the span of 2 seconds. He raised a single questioning eyebrow. I gave a microscopic, deliberate nod. Let him burn, my eyes said. Mark's lips twitched into a predatory smirk. Fascinating, he said smoothly, turning his attention back to my sweating brother. I'm actually looking for a new flagship project for the downtown waterfront. Let's talk numbers after the presentations, Alex. Keep the iPad handy. Alex looked like he had just been handed the keys to the kingdom. Absolutely. You won't regret this. Oh, I rarely do, Mark replied softly. He gave me a subtle nod and melted back into the crowd. My parents practically exploded the second he was out of earshot. Did you hear that? Sarah squealed, grabbing Arthur's arm. He loves it. Alex, you're going to be a millionaire. I told you, Arthur said, puffing out his chest and giving me a pointed look. The boy is a genius. Zoe, you should take notes. That is how you close a deal. A soft chime echoed through the ballroom. The host stepped up to the main podium. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to present our final honor of the evening. Sarah patted my arm dismissively, her eyes still glued to Alex. Go on, Zoe. Do your little speech. Try to keep it brief so we can get back to Alex's investor. Don't worry, Mom, I said. My voice was as cold and hard as the marble floor beneath my feet. I promise you, no one in this room will ever forget what I'm about to say. I turned away from my family, the crystal award heavy in my hand, and walked toward the blinding lights of the stage. The trap was set. It was time to pull the lever. The spotlight blinded me as I stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent. I looked out into the sea of faces and found my family in the front row. Sarah was checking her watch. Alex was already typing on his phone, probably picking out the color of his new Ferrari. Thank you, I began, my voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. They say behind every successful architect is a solid foundation. For me, that foundation was my family. Arthur puffed out his chest. Sarah finally looked up, smiling for the cameras. They taught me that if you want something built right, you have to build it yourself, I continued. Because if you rely on them, they will take everything you have, including your blueprints. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sarah's smile faltered. My brother Alex is pitching a revolutionary eco-complex tonight, I said, pointing directly at him. It's brilliant. The cantilevered gardens, the wind shear distribution. It's truly visionary. I should know. I designed it 6 months ago, and Alex stole it from my private backup drive. The murmurs turned into gasps. Alex's face drained of color. He looked at Mark, who was standing a few feet away, sipping his champagne with a look of absolute icy amusement. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize my own lead architect's intellectual property, Alex? Mark asked loudly, his voice carrying perfectly across the silent room. My legal team will be in touch tomorrow regarding corporate espionage. Zoe, stop this right now, Arthur hissed, stepping toward the stage, his face purple with rage. You are embarrassing us. After everything we've given you, we gave you our connections. We let you live in our home. Your home? I laughed, a sharp, cold sound that echoed through the microphone. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded piece of paper. That's the other thing I wanted to announce. My firm is donating a massive suburban estate to charity tomorrow. It's currently occupied, but the tenants are being vacated. I walked to the edge of the stage and dropped the paper. It fluttered down, landing perfectly on my father's expensive leather shoes. I own the shell company that bought that house, Arthur. I paid the taxes. I paid the mortgage. And as of tonight, your 30-day eviction notice is officially served. You can use the $50,000 you expected me to give Alex for the moving trucks. Sarah let out a choked sob, grabbing Arthur's arm. Alex was frozen, staring at the floor as the reality of his ruined life crashed down on him. I turned back to the microphone, picking up my crystal award. The weight of it finally felt earned. Consider the last 3 years of free rent my final investment in this family, I said, looking right at my mother. Good night. I walked off the stage, leaving them standing in the ruins of the empire they thought they owned. I didn't look back. I had a city to build. Thank you for listening to the very end. If you think Zoe's family finally got the reality check they deserved, let me know by typing "eviction served" in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Also, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We are currently trying to hit our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single sub truly helps us in our daily work to keep writing and producing these original stories for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.